Welcome to the Idaho REALTORS podcast, our association's podcast for membership, education, and outreach. I'm the IR Communications Director, Nick Stout, and I'll be your host for this week. On today's episode, I interview NAR Chief Economist Dr. Lawrence Yoon and discuss some important indicators for the market and where it might be headed in the months ahead. We'll also have some information about the Realtor of the Year nominations, as well as the upcoming August Wednesday webinar. Thank you for joining us, and don't forget to visit our website, idahorealtors.com, for more information. Also, if you haven't done so, remember to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. My name is Nick Stout. I am the Communications Director for Idaho REALTORS, and I am meeting today with Dr. Lawrence Yoon, who has graciously offered us some time to share some information with us about the housing market in Idaho and nationally what some trends are going on. So Dr. Yoon, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Nick, for inviting me.
I have a couple questions prepared, so we'll just go ahead and jump right in. First off, can you just kind of talk to us about national trends or indicators that Idaho Realtors should be aware of in the months ahead? Specifically, I'm kind of curious what we should watch for regarding mortgage rates, applications, and foreclosure rates, but I'm just kind of looking for your insight on that.
One national phenomena that everyone is feeling equally is the mortgage rates. So policymakers at the Federal Reserve, I am here in Washington, and just a few blocks from here is the Federal Reserve Board, and they have raised interest rates quite aggressively, and they will continue to do so. All this has been communicated, which is the reason why the mortgage rates today are much higher compared to 1 year ago. It's about 5.5%. 1 year ago, it was 3%. And across the country, consumers, as they are trying to take out a mortgage, is becoming much more difficult. Or should I say that people are backing away from this higher monthly mortgage obligation, and they are just, some consumers are just wait and see approach. But this rising mortgage rate has certainly impacted the housing market. You are seeing home sales coming down in Idaho, but coming down pretty much everywhere across the country.
Along with that issue is kind of this question of housing inventory rates, both nationally and, kind of what we have available here in Idaho. Do you have anything that you'd like to share with us about that?
So we have had housing shortage, realtors across the country. I mean, I hear from several realtors in Idaho, which say if we had more inventory, we could have gotten more home sales done last 2 years. Now, things have changed because of higher mortgage rates. I know some of the builders, especially the builders, where from start, you dig the ground and completion could take 12 months. And during that time, mortgage rates have changed. So the buyers who thought they were buying at a certain rate are now unable. So a lot of cancellation beginning to arise. And because of this situation, temporarily, builders are being very cautious. But when I look at the long-term figure numbers, population growth, how much homes are we building to accommodate the rising population, or even the job creation that occurs over the long haul? I mean, there was a recession here and there, but over the long haul, there are more jobs today than 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and we are insufficient in housing. So we had housing shortage before COVID. Things got exacerbated during the COVID as people took advantage of low interest rates. So I say this home building activity supply issue will be with us soon as this interest rate begins to stabilize. I mean, things look a little shaky at the moment, but once interest rates stabilize, I think the buyers will be coming back into the market. And again, we face housing shortage. That's why it's critical to boost supply, boost supply, boost supply.
How do you expect housing starts to impact inventory rates in the months ahead?
So housing start, at least temporarily for a few months, I think it's going to be very soft. Builders, I mean, they are always very cautious at the first signal of the buyers backing away. Interesting part on the newly constructed home sale is that once the home is completed, fully completed, the garage door came on time, the refrigerator is in place, it's taken about 2.5 months to find a buyer. Now, for existing home market, that sounds like a lengthy process, but believe it or not, for the home builders, this is quite swift process. And hence, I think the builders will recognize once home is completed, they can find buyer within a reasonable time by the builder standards, and they will again start be more active in home building because you build it, one can sell it. And especially in places like Idaho, where you have so many new residents coming in from moving from state of Washington, Oregon, and Californians moving in. And consequently, more homes need to be built or home prices will continue to rise and then essentially price out with long-time local residents.
IR 2022 Realtor of the Year nominations are due August 5th. IR is now accepting nominations for the 2022 Realtor of the Year. Help us recognize and celebrate the realtor in our association that has done the most this year to support their community and embodied that realtor spirit at the local, state, and national levels. The application deadlines for Realtor of the Year are August 5th at 5 p.m. Mountain Time. Visit our website for more information. The next Idaho Realtors Wednesday webinar is right around the corner. Join us at 1 p.m. on Wednesday, August 24th, 2022, for a panel discussion on skills and ideas to navigate Idaho's shifting market. This webinar will be advantageous to realtors that have never experienced the sort of economic shift that the Idaho housing market is currently going through and the relevant factors that impact it. Our panel discussion will include panelists 2022 NAR First Vice President Tracy Casper and Idaho Realtors President Patrick Malone. Register today and join us for Navigating a Shifting Market, our August Wednesday webinar. My next question I have is, do you have any specific observations about Idaho's market that you'd like to share with our members?
The median home price in the largest city in Idaho, Boise City area, was $150,000 10 years ago. Can one imagine $150,000? And people are probably thinking, I should have purchased 3 or 4 back then, because right now it's approaching $500,000. That is a substantial increase. In fact, fastest growth in the country, I believe. Only exception maybe a couple of markets in Utah. But this such a fast growth condition has really put strains and smiles on many Boise or Idaho residents, because if you're homeowners, you say, wow, I have a huge housing wealth. But if one wanted to be a home buyer and they postponed it, now the rents are rising and they're essentially priced out. So it is creating a divide between those who have and enjoying the housing wealth and those who feel like they missed out and never can join the ranks of homeownership. So very tough situation.
It is very tight here right now. That is for sure. You know, kind of on that point, there's a lot of fluctuations happening right now between market price and sales price. In Idaho, do you expect to see that price fluctuation? What do you expect to happen to it here in the near future?
So someone who buys today at higher mortgage rate, higher prices, one will look back 10 years from now and say, this is one of the best decisions ever. And the reasoning for that is even at higher interest rate, people know that it goes up and it goes down. And when it goes down, one can always refinance. But at least the monthly payment is fixed for those with mortgages, while rents are rising 1 year after the other. And home values 10 years from now will be meaningfully higher. But is it going to go down next year? I really cannot say. Could it go down 5% or could it rise 5%? Given the unusual pattern that occur, the market timing over a short term is hard to predict. Maybe it will give away 5%, but people will view it as a second chance opportunity for those who got outbid by others last year. But it will be of only short duration. People have long-term horizon. I think they will be all fine.
You know, one thing that is kind of interesting happening in Idaho right now is we have a lot of migration into the state, specifically from neighboring states such as California, Oregon, Montana. How do you think the economic outlook is going to impact those sorts of people trying to move into Idaho? And what do you think long-term that might kind of turn into for us?
And, part of the reason for the in-migration into Idaho is the housing affordability. which is no longer there anymore. So that large gap between, say, prices in Seattle versus, say, Coeur d'Alene or in Boise, that gap is narrow, and hence there is less incentive to move for housing affordability reasons. But one looks at the job number in Idaho is quite spectacular. It was the second best job performance since the onset of COVID. About half of the states across the country have more jobs today compared to pre-COVID. And Idaho is ranked number second. Utah was number one. So fast job creation. I speak with a few realtors in Idaho, and they say, look, technology companies are basing over here. I mean, for a long time, people may not have recognized, but you certainly know it. Intel was a big player in Idaho, but now, given there are technology workers, other tech companies want to come to tap into some talent, and consequently, it is the jobs that is really generating business-friendly environment in the state. So companies, they are considering, look, maybe I want to leave California and set up a new expansion or totally relocate over to Idaho. So the job market will provide the support for the housing market.
Well, I really appreciate your insights on all of this. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our members while we're talking today?
So I think, overall, there's a lot of concern. We have a housing shortage, even on the rental side. The rents are rising. And I know people do not like rising mortgage rates, but one thing people truly detest is rising rents. So even though people are facing higher mortgage rate, I think if they qualify, I think they will be looking at the market carefully. Maybe they can do some price negotiation and get in. But overall, long-term prospect in Idaho still looks very bright.
Well, Dr. Yoon, I really appreciate your insight for all of this. If our members want to hear more from you or find you online, where can they look to kind of hear some more information from you?
So on our website, which is, I guess one would just Google it, NAR Research, and then one goes to the website, a lot of statistics, a lot of information about home buyers. And then I have my staff along with myself doing some social media, whether in LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, NAR Research, and one can find that information.
Well, thank you so much. I hope our members look forward to some more information from you in the future. And I'm excited that we'll have you call in to join us here for our conference this October. And thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Idaho Realtors podcast, our association's podcast for membership, education, and outreach. Thank you to Dr. Lawrence Yoon for joining us for this episode. Remember to visit nar.realtor to learn more about Lawrence Yoon's work as Chief Economist and read his weekly market blogs. My name is Nick Stout, and I'm the IR Communications Director, and I was your host for this week's episode. Remember to visit our website and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider following us on your preferred podcast platform, liking on social media, and sharing it with your friends and followers. Thank you again for joining us for this week's episode, and take care until next time.